Bernie Sanders has said the quiet part out loud. This is a guy who ran as a counter to the establishment twice in 2016 and in 2020. And he pretended to challenge the entire system, challenge the military industrial complex, challenge the oligarchy. Even recently, he's been on a tour with AOC talking about fighting the oligarchy. Of course, his target of that's those speeches he's been doing all over the country. He's come here to LA. He keeps talking over and over about Trump needs to be stopped. This, as we know, as independents, as former Democrats, I would say, we know that's BS. We know the only way you can really fight the oligarchy is you got to challenge both parties. Also, you got to stop being a mouthpiece for freaking Israel. Not to mention NATO, because pro-NATO is also part of Bernie's mantra, which he's ramped up, way ramped up since 2016, 2020. He didn't defend wars in 2016. He didn't defend occupations and genocides and proxy wars in 2016, 2020. But at the end of the day, what did Bernie tell us to do at the end when his presidential runs came to an end? What did he tell us to do? Get in line and vote for Hillary. Get in line and vote for Biden. He's going to do the same thing again in 2028. Get in line and vote. Oh, wait, we forgot Kamala. Get in line and vote for Kamala in 2024. 2028, it's going to be get in line and vote for AOC. So we know that blueprint. We know that that's a script he follows every time. We're not going to fall for it again. So why does this podcast he went on, why does that matter? Well, it seems for the first time, Bernie, and he's been on podcasts before, but Bernie Sanders went on a podcast with Andrew Schultz and a few of his friends, and apparently had figured out how to sit him on a couch around a nice, pleasant scenery with trees, fake trees around them, nice lighting, probably a nice studio with good snacks and good drinks and bottled water ready to go. He set all that up. Andrew Schultz set it all up. Bernie came, sat down, and they had a conversation. And in this conversation, we heard for the first time Bernie Sanders admitting to the rigged system, not just the Republicans, admitting to the DNC rigged system on multiple levels. They got him to admit a lot of things in this short interview. Let's look at the first clip. This is Bernie pulling back on the establishment of the DNC. And he's going to tell Andrew Schultz and the audience, and now you guys are hearing it, how much the Democrats despise the voters, despise working class people who aren't on their elitist level. Check it out.
I think a lot of voters had is like they didn't even know if it was her. We didn't even know if Biden was president. We didn't even know if these were her talking points. And we felt that over the last 4 elections, Democrats, we felt that we didn't have a say on who could be president. We talk a lot about the Republicans being autocrats and oligarchs and taking over democracy, but from the Democrat perspective, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, I felt like the Democratic Party completely removed the democratic process from its constituents. And I think they need to have some accountability of that.
No argument here.
No argument here. No argument here. Well, maybe he'll stop. That's a little bit too much there, Bernie. You better pull back for your handlers. You better pull it back. Don't say anything more. Or does he want to say anything more? Let's see.
I donated for you. I mean, I wanted you to 2016. I was like, this is going to happen. This guy's going to do it. And it felt like they stole it from me. And I'll be honest, it broke my heart when
Did you see him holding that breath? I'm just going to rewind it just a second here. Look at his mouth. I'm just, because I'm seeing this for the second time. And if you guys are seeing it for the first time, it's pretty remarkable. But look at him holding his mouth like that. If I was an expert in body language, I would say this is somebody who has literally and figuratively something to say. His body has something to say. The words in his mouth ready to come out because the balloon which seems like the balloon of his mouth is about to pop. That's what I'm seeing. Let's see what the next thing he says. And shout out to Andrew Schultz for setting up such an environment that allowed this to happen, whether it was just luck or good timing or all these factors came into play. But let's hear enough of the building this up. Let's hear what Bernie actually has to say about this topic, which is very important. And a lot of us agree with Andrew Schultz here.
When you supported him,
Look, but you have, in the world that I live in, you got a choice. And I mean, a lot of people, including my wife, agree with you. But, you know, you're down to a choice. Is it going to be Hillary Clinton or is it going to be Donald Trump? Not a great choice.
but it ended up being him anyway, so why don't we burn it down?
Well, because it's easy to say burning it down means that children are not going to have, you know, food to eat, that the schools will deteriorate. People.
I'm sorry, are you talking about children here? Because they don't all have that. No, they don't. So he's saying if you don't burn it down, then children will be able to eat. We know where children aren't eating. That's in Gaza. That's not happening. So that didn't. So your theory about we can't burn it down because children will starve. Well, children are starving right now because of both parties. The thing that Andrew Schultz is saying, let's burn it down, it's not working. Bernie says, well, what about the kids? Well, the kids are literally being starved to death in Gaza. But not just that, the children are starving here too, Bernie. You got that wrong too. We're in California, the biggest state, supposed to be the biggest economy in the country, the 5th largest economy on the planet, and it's not doing well at all. It's got the biggest homeless population on the planet. It's all blue. By the way, California is all blue, and you know that, Bernie. So this idea that we're going to take the lesser of two evils, so you're admitting that the Democratic Party is evil, but you're still willing to take the lesser of two evils because it could get even worse, like how bad it is for the children in Gaza. That kind of worse, I guess. That's what you're saying. But American people are more valuable than Gazan people, so therefore Americans, not every single children starving in America. That's at least something versus every single Gazan either blown up, limbs blown off, or starving to death currently, funded by Biden and by Trump, currently starving to death. But okay, I digress. Let's get to the rest of Bernie's feedback, and I would say his critique of the thing that he never tells us to vote against.
Will not have health care.
I got it.
And I'm an elected official. I got to represent the people.
That's fair.
And I can't turn my back on.
But then could we not also say if ostensibly there hasn't been a fair primary for the Democrats since 2008, are they not also a threat to democracy? Yes. We often hear.
Fair enough. That is. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that point.
Wow. The Democrats are also a threat to democracy. Fair enough, Bernie. You're not going to argue that. Well, wait, whoa. Now I'm confused because I thought when you were fighting the oligarchy with your friend AOC, you deliberately left that part out of your messaging, that the Democratic Party is actually responsible for stealing our democracy. As the other host here said on the stage just now, we haven't had a fair election in the Democrat Party since 2008. I will argue we didn't have a fair election in 2008 either because Barack Obama was hand-selected by the banking system, by the crooks, by the deep state, hand-selected. So no, that wasn't a fair election either. In fact, there was a order in which he was allowed to be the next one up, and then Hillary was pushed to the back of the line, and she was supposed to be next. So no, that wasn't a fair election either. But the point is, and I think 2012 was Obama gets his second term. That was pretty cut and dry. But what he's referring to, and what Bernie is nodding along to, is the Democrats rigged the democratic process in 2016, in 2020, and in 2024. 1, 2, 3. It's clear as freaking day. And Bernie says, yeah, that's true. So why would you not represent that in Fight the Oligarchy? Why would you not represent that when you're asked about it elsewhere? For some reason, you're being honest here, Bernie. You're literally saying the quiet part out loud. But does this mean you're going to continue this when you go on your next tour with AOC? Or are you going to pretend this didn't happen? We have the tape now, so we can always play this. You're telling us that the Democrats are guilty of taking our democracy away. That's so funny because so many people, so many Democrats think that it was taken away by Trump and the Republicans, uniquely by MAGA, uniquely by Trump, with no awareness, no self-awareness that this party that stabbed you in the back twice, second time was for show, of course, that you got stabbed in the back in the primaries in 2016. You know you did. Your wife knows you did. And yet you never told us that. You never said, I'm done with this. Let's burn the whole system to the ground. You could have done that, and you would have had the rest of us behind you every step of the way. And you know that now. You must know that now. Maybe that's what's been weighing on your conscience this whole time. Maybe that's it. I have 2 more clips of this interview, but that was the first one we saw. And I'm blown away. Little tech issue. I am blown away at his candidness there in that interview. Blown away. Not because I think anything's going to change. Not that I think he's going to change his talking points moving forward. It's still going to be Trump is the greatest threat to our democracy in the history of our democracy. We got to stop Trump. He's not going to change that. But what I'm shocked at is that his candidness allowed this to get out into the interwebs. And it's now available for us. We can always have this forever. Grab it, guys. Grab this clip. I'm going to play 2 more for you and keep it with you. Next time Bernie comes to your town to tell you what to do in 2028, keep this with you and say, this guy is a piece of ass liar. When he's going to retreat, and mark my words, he's going to retreat and pretend he never did this. Oh, but he did. Oh, but he did. You want to see another one? Same interview. Again, shout out to Andrew Schultz putting this together. Oh, I should do a side note. If you guys were wondering, Andrew Schultz is a Zionist. Probably why Bernie was allowed himself to be in this group. He knew that this group wasn't going to attack him about funding genocide. That might have been why he agreed to be in this little talking session, this little casual hangout with the dudes. But okay, genocide didn't come up. Fair enough. There were other things that did come up, like this topic. This is very important. Check this one out.
That we felt in 2016, 2020 from the Democratic establishment. I'll give you an example. We would do rallies and we have thousands of people, often young people of color coming out, working class people coming out. They were great, full of energy. Yeah. And then we go to Democratic Party events. There'd be a few hundred people, mostly older, whiter, wealthier. And you saw the clash. And the establishment did not want to open the door. They hated the idea that all these people whose hands were a little bit dirty, who didn't have PhDs or weren't wealthy, imagine walking in, it's my party, man. You ain't getting in.
Yes.
We will fight you in the most ruthless ways that we can. And that's the struggle. Are they going to open the door, or are they prepared to lose elections, literally, and maintain
the status quo?
Go down with the Titanic. So,
yeah, that's wow. He's admitting how elitist this party ended up being, and was elitist the whole way. He's saying that they look down on workers. They look down on people who showed up to Bernie rallies. And to go further, I don't know if they went further on this section, but I would go further and say, Bernie, they also were protected by the media, who didn't cover your rallies correctly, by the way, pretended that Hillary had all the people at hers, which she didn't. But Bernie, you're saying this is the struggle, this is the problem. What is the problem? Why don't you just tell your voters this? Why don't you just tell us? Why do you have to wait to May of 2025 to tell us how dysfunctional this party is? Not to mention how I would say elitist. I've said elite. They're elitist. They look down. They thumb their noses at their voters, that they feel they're entitled to their vote. You had nothing to say about this on your campaign, even if you didn't know it in 2016. You have nothing to say about this in 2020. You just told us we have to vote for your good friend Joe Biden. That's what you told us, who was probably previously just diagnosed with cancer and dementia, onset dementia, which you didn't tell us that either, but that's another story. But even if Biden was tip-top shape, which what we know now, he wasn't tip-top at all in 2020, 2021. But you told us vote for my good friend Joe Biden. That's what you told us. And now you're telling us that the party is elitist and thumbs their noses at its voters, that who they feel entitled to. Okay. So that's the hard thing. You got to figure out, how do we beat that? Well, I know how not to beat that, by you pretending for years and years and years that wasn't a thing when it clearly was. So again, I think the people here, Andrew Schultz and the rest of them, I mean, it's a great opportunity to have him admit this right in front of their faces. So I don't know how much more they push back beyond this, but he's telling us, he's telling the world, he's literally saying the quiet part out loud. I'll play one more for you guys. This is Bernie on the what we call identity politics problem in the DNC, and particularly how they smeared Bernie bros. He's going to spell it all out for you. He didn't just figure this out last night. He's known this the whole time. Listen to it from his own mouth.
Sorry, I hate to interrupt you. We have a question we want to ask about what happened to you in 2016 with this Bernie Bros movement, where your followers are seeing they have a racism problem, a misogyny problem. Do you think that's a super PAC thing behind that?
That was the Democratic establishment. That was the.
Wow. Okay.
That was just, they were sitting there. We had a lot of young people. We had people of color, and they create this kind of myth with the help of the corporate media and all that stuff.
It's kind of interesting to that note is during this election, the podcast space, which the Democrats largely avoided, they feel had some influence in the election, and they started to label us the podcast bros and said that we were sexist and we were racist and bigoted. It's almost like it's the exact same strategy to get you out of there.
Yeah, that's what the liberal elite China does. They run away. Look, again.
The liberal elite. Who's this liberal elite, Bernie? Who are you talking about? Your good friend Joe Biden, the team behind Biden, the team behind Hillary Clinton, the Clintons, the Obamas, the liberal elite. This is how they behave, like pieces of S. This is how they behave. They use identity politics. They weaponize people against the thing they are against them, so you won't listen to the thing itself. Where you're gonna use straight white males identity against them, and then you're gonna uplift people of color and say you can't criticize Kamala Harris, you can't criticize Barack Obama, people of color. You specifically can't criticize Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton for being a woman. You're telling us this is their tactic, to punch down at us, manipulate us, put us in boxes, and shame us into having a voice if we have something to say about the person and their actions, because we're actually racist and sexist if we have a problem with Kamala Harris or Hillary Clinton. This is their tactic. You're telling us this is their tactic. You didn't just figure this out last night, but now you're telling us. Well, you can't untell us. We have you telling us now. We have the footage now. Go on. Tell us how identity politics works. This is the shit we've been talking about on our channel the whole time. And we get called Trumpers. We get called white nationalists. We get called all of these names for calling out the establishment, the Democratic Party, who manipulates its people, feels entitled to its voters, and shames people for asking questions. Please continue. Tell us how identity politics works.
Run away. Look, again, I would hope that everybody who's watching the program is that we as a nation have got to end all forms of bigotry, right?
Yes.
That I start off as a basic assumption.
Unless it's to your close friends, right?
Yeah, whether it's racism or sexism, homophobia, or xenophobia, whatever it is. But, liberal Democrats talk about that all the time. And then you get to what we call identity politics.
Yeah.
That you're black, you're wonderful, you're tremendous, you're gay, you're the greatest human being on earth.
Yeah.
And rather than say, what do you stand for?
Exactly.
Well said, Bernie. This is what we've been talking about the whole time. The whole time. You have that down. It's as if you've had this idea in your head for just as long as we've had. Your only difference is you're just now saying it out loud publicly. We've been talking about it the whole time. And our other shows that we are aligned with who've been around longer than the homeless left, they've been saying it at the top of their lungs from the very effing beginning. We know Kit Cabello, Hardlands Media, has been saying this from his studio in Chicago since 2016, 2017. And you're just getting it out of your mouth now in 2025. Wow.
You're gay, that's fine. Who cares?
Yeah.
But what do you stand for?
Yeah.
Is every gay person brilliant and wonderful and great? No, of course not. Everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
So the issue is what you stand for, which gets you back to what we discussed earlier, class politics, in the sense of which side are you on? Are you going to stand with working families? Are you going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage or not? Are you going to fight to guarantee health care to all people or not? Are you going to demand that the wealthiest people start paying their fair share of taxes or not? Those are the issues. And no one cares what color you are, what your gender is, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm sorry.
Wow. I'm flabbergasted here. That is literally the platform. That's a third party platform. That's a RFK Jr. platform. That's on RFK Jr. I'm fed up with the Democratic Party, and I'm going to be stronger than Bernie, and I'm going to actually leave it. And so this is the guy, RFK Jr. is the guy you sat across from Bernie during his Senate confirmation hearings, and you mocked and yelled at him for challenging Big Pharma, the thing that you rallied against Big Pharma in 2016. We got to take on Big Pharma. You sat across from RFK Jr. and belittled him and mocked him for having a problem with the establishment and for leaving the party that you refuse to leave because you don't have the courage to leave it. Yet you're saying everything here that we heard RFK Jr. tell us when he went independent in 2023. He went independent October 10th of 2023, which was 3 days after October 7th. Really bad timing for a Zionist, but that's another story. The point is, he had enough with the two-party oligarchy and knew that both parties were guilty of stealing our democracy. And you are now telling us this? I want to go back and almost look at that tape of you yelling at RFK Jr. just a couple months ago. And I think that when we watch your body language, we're going to see deep down an odd amount of a weird, probably it's been contained, but it's seeping through a little bit through your skin. An odd amount of jealousy and envy that he had the balls to leave the party and you didn't. And you're an independent. Why do you feel so tied to this horrible thing that you are telling us to Andrew Schultz and his group there on their podcast to the world? Everybody's seen this now. If they haven't, they're going to see it. And you guys, please save these videos. Find them. If you, the clips themselves, we're going to bring these up over and over again. Anytime Bernie starts talking about Trump this, Trump that, we got to bring you back to the Democratic Party. It's the only way we can stop them. 2028, we need as many Democrats for AOC, blah, 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 blah. You play this tape. You know what's going on, Bernie, and you said the quiet part out loud. I don't know if you knew you were going to do that when you walked in that studio before the taping started, before the show started, but you certainly at some point decided to just let it rip, and it was right when your mouth was going like this. Oh, the hell with it. I better just say it. Well, you did it. You said it. You said the quiet part out loud, Bernie, and there's no going back.